The ultimatum. The observation deck of Nexus Station offered a breathtaking view of the Helix Nebula, its swirling colors painting the darkness of space in brilliant shades of blue and gold. Commander Elena Vasquez stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the massive Krillian dreadnought approach the station. The alien vessel dwarfed every human ship in the area, its dark hull bristling with weapon arrays that could reduce entire planets to cosmic dust. Impressive, isn't it? Captain Marcus Chen joined her at the viewport, his hand resting unconsciously on his sidearm. Intelligence reports suggest that ship alone could take on our entire Outer Rim fleet. Elena nodded grimly. 3 months ago, humanity had received its first communication from the Krillian Empire, a message that had sent shockwaves through every human colony from Earth to the furthest mining outposts. The aliens had been watching, studying, and now they wanted to talk. The meeting on Nexus Station was supposed to be a historic moment for humanity, their first formal diplomatic contact with an advanced alien civilization. "Commander, they're requesting permission to dock," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communications console. "Their escort ships are taking defensive positions around the station." "Granted," Elena replied, though her stomach tightened with apprehension. She had spent 15 years in the Colonial Defense Force before transitioning to diplomatic service, and every instinct told her this meeting would not go as humanity hoped. Dr. Yuki Tanaka approached with a datapad in hand, her expression troubled. "I finished analyzing their preliminary communications. The linguistic patterns suggest a hierarchical society with strong concepts of dominance and submission. Their word for negotiation translates more accurately as terms of surrender." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What else? Their culture appears to have no concept of equals. In their worldview, every relationship is between a superior and an inferior. They've conquered at least 12 different species over the past 3 centuries. The docking bay announcement echoed through the station as the Krillian shuttle completed its approach. Elena straightened her diplomatic uniform and checked her translator device one final time. Beside her, Captain Chen discreetly signaled his security team to take their positions throughout the meeting room. The Krillian delegation entered the conference chamber with an air of absolute authority. Ambassador Threx Vorthak stood nearly 3 meters tall, his reptilian features dominated by cold, intelligent eyes that seemed to calculate the worth of everything they observed. His scaled skin had a metallic sheen that reflected the station's lighting, and when he moved, it was with the fluid grace of a predator. 2 smaller Krillians flanked him, their positions clearly subordinate. Helena noticed they never looked directly at their ambassador, keeping their heads slightly bowed in deference. The message was clear. This was how the strong and weak behaved in Krillian society. "I am Ambassador Threx Vorthak of the Krillian Empire," the alien announced, his voice carrying the artificial precision of a universal translator. "You are the representatives of the species that calls itself human. I am Commander Elena Vasquez, diplomatic envoy for the United Human Colonies," Elena replied, stepping forward with what she hoped was confident bearing. "We welcome this opportunity for peaceful dialogue between our peoples." The ambassador's neck frill flared slightly, a gesture Dr. Tanaka had warned might indicate amusement or contempt. "Peaceful dialogue," Vorthak repeated slowly. "Your species possesses interesting concepts. However, dialogue suggests equality between participants. This is not such a meeting." Elena felt the temperature in the room seem to drop. "I'm not sure I understand your meaning, Ambassador." "Then allow me to clarify." Vorthak gestured to one of his subordinates, who activated a holographic display showing a detailed map of human space. Red markers indicated every human colony, space station, and military installation. "For the past year, we have observed your species. We have cataloged your primitive technology, studied your chaotic political structures, and evaluated your military capabilities." A hologram zoomed in on specific installations, showing detailed scans that revealed information no outsider should possess. Secret military bases, hidden weapons caches, even the exact location of Colonial Defense Force headquarters on Earth. Elena fought to keep her expression neutral while her mind raced through the security implications. Your evaluation period is complete, Vorthak continued. The Krillian Empire hereby extends an offer of vassalage to the human species. You will surrender sovereignty over all colonies beyond your inner system. Your military forces will be disbanded and integrated into our auxiliary units. Your government will be restructured under Krillian oversight. In exchange, your species will be granted the protection of the Empire and allowed to continue existing. The silence that followed was deafening. Elena could hear her own heartbeat as she processed what amounted to a demand for humanity's complete surrender disguised as a generous offer. "And if we refuse?" she asked quietly. Vorthak's eyes gleamed with what might have been anticipation. Refusal would be unwise. Perhaps a demonstration would clarify your position. The ambassador spoke a command in his own language. Moments later, alarms began sounding throughout Nexus Station. Elena rushed to the viewport as one of the Krillian escort ships moved away from the station, its weapon systems powering up. In the distance, the abandoned mining facility at Kepler 438 had been scheduled for demolition next month. Elena watched in horror as a single energy beam lanced out from the alien vessel, striking the facility dead center. The explosion was visible even from their position millions of kilometers away, a brilliant flash that outshone nearby stars before fading to nothing. The facility contained approximately 50,000 tons of refined metals and industrial equipment. Vorthak noted conversationally. Our weapons reduced it to component atoms in 2.3 seconds. Your largest warships would require several minutes of concentrated fire to achieve similar results, assuming their weapons could penetrate our shields. Elena turned back to face the ambassador, her diplomatic training warring with 15 years of military instincts. That was an unprovoked attack on human property. That was a mercy, Vorthak corrected. We could have selected a facility with inhabitants. The Empire does not make idle threats, Commander Vasquez. We have the power to erase your species from existence. Our offer of vassalage is born from pragmatism, not weakness. Your people possess certain useful qualities that would benefit the Empire. What qualities? Dr. Tanaka asked, speaking for the first time since the meeting began. Adaptability. Resourcefulness under pressure. A curious disregard for personal safety when protecting others. These traits, properly directed, could prove valuable in our expansion efforts. Elena felt sick. The aliens were talking about humanity like livestock being evaluated for breeding programs. You're offering to make us your slaves. Slaves suggest property without value beyond labor, Vorthak replied. We offer partnership under proper guidance. The 12 species currently serving the Empire have prospered under our protection. Their populations have grown, their technologies have advanced, their societies have achieved stability they never possessed independently, at the cost of their freedom. Freedom is chaos, Commander. Freedom is the luxury of species too primitive to understand the benefits of order. Your own history demonstrates this clearly. How many wars has your species fought against itself? How many billions have died because of your freedom to make poor choices? Elena's hands clenched into fists. The alien had done his homework, studying humanity's violent past and using it as a weapon in this conversation. But something in his tone, a note of condescension that went beyond mere diplomatic posturing, sparked her anger. Our wars taught us valuable lessons, Ambassador. They taught us that some things are worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. Indeed, Vorthak seemed genuinely curious. And what lesson would you apply to your current situation? Your species faces a choice between survival as vassals or extinction as martyrs. Surely even human pride has limits. Elena looked around the room at her team. Captain Chen's hand was on his weapon, though they all knew it would be useless against Krillian technology. Dr. Tanaka was pale but steady, her scientific mind probably calculating the odds of human survival. Lieutenant Kim stood at attention, awaiting orders she was prepared to follow regardless of consequences. These people represented the best of humanity: courage, loyalty, intelligence, and the stubborn refusal to bow to tyranny that had defined their species throughout history. Elena thought of the billions of humans spread across dozens of worlds, people who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars, people who deserved better than slavery disguised as protection. "You want our answer now?" Elena asked. "The Empire is patient, but not infinitely so. You have 72 standard hours to consider our offer. After that time expires, we will assume your refusal and act accordingly." "I don't need 72 hours, Ambassador." Elena stepped closer to the towering alien, craning her neck to meet his gaze directly. "Humanity's answer is no. We reject your offer of vassalage. We reject your protection. We reject your empire's authority over any human world or any human life." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the station's background hum seemed to fade as every being in the room absorbed the implications of Elena's words. Vorthek's neck frill slowly expanded to its full width, a gesture Dr. Tanaka had warned indicated extreme agitation or preparation for violence. "You speak for your entire species?" the ambassador asked, his voice carrying dangerous undertones. "I speak for humanity's principles. Freedom isn't something we surrender because the alternative is easier. It's something we fight for because the alternative is unthinkable. You choose extinction over vassalage. For your entire species, I choose to give humanity the chance to prove you wrong about us." Vorthak studied her for a long moment, his reptilian features unreadable. "Fascinating. In 3 centuries of expansion, no species has refused our initial offer. Most accept immediately upon demonstration of our capabilities. A few require additional persuasion, but ultimate submission is inevitable. Then will be your first disappointment." "Indeed you shall," Vorthak agreed, though perhaps disappointment is not the correct term. "Your response is educational. The Empire will learn much from studying how a species chooses extinction over evolution." The Krillian delegation began moving toward the exit, their purpose evidently complete. As they reached the doorway, Vorthek paused and looked back at Elena. "Commander, your decision has been noted and will be transmitted to Imperial Command. The 72-hour grace period remains in effect should you reconsider. After that time, the Empire will begin demonstrating why 12 species chose vassalage over the alternative you have selected." "Ambassador," Elena called after him, "when your Empire begins its demonstration, remember that you were warned. Humanity doesn't surrender, and we become very dangerous when threatened with extinction." Vorthak's frill flared one final time. "We shall see, Commander Vasquez. We shall see." The Krillian delegation departed, leaving behind a conference room filled with humans who had just declared war against an enemy that outgunned them by orders of magnitude. Elena sank into her chair, the weight of what she had done settling on her shoulders like a lead blanket. "Ma'am," Captain Chen said quietly, "did we just doom our species?" Elena looked out at the stars where human colonies dotted dozens of systems, each one now targeted for destruction by an enemy that had never known defeat. "Maybe, Marcus, but we gave them something the other 12 species didn't have." "What's that?" "A choice. And now we find out what humans do when our backs are against the wall and surrender isn't an option." Dr. Tanaka was already working at her console, preparing emergency communications to every human world. The Krillians studied our history, but they missed the most important lesson. Humans don't just fight harder when we're cornered. We fight differently. As the Krillian dreadnought departed Nexus Station, its weapon arrays already charging for the campaign to come, Elena began planning humanity's response to an ultimatum that demanded their freedom or their lives. She had chosen to gamble everything on the hope that her species' greatest strength lay not in their technology or their numbers, but in their absolute refusal to accept defeat. The 72-hour countdown had begun, and when it ended, the galaxy would discover what happened when someone pushed humanity too far. The human response. The first Krillian attack came exactly 72 hours after Ambassador Vorthak's ultimatum expired. The target was New Brisbane, an agricultural colony on the rim of human space with a population of 2 million. Intelligence reports suggested it would be an easy victory, a demonstration of Krillian power that would shock humanity into submission. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez stood in the command center of the defense station orbiting New Brisbane, watching the Krillian task force approach on her tactical display. 12 ships, including 2 heavy cruisers that could level entire cities with a single barrage. Her own forces consisted of 6 patrol frigates and a handful of converted civilian vessels crewed by volunteers. "Admiral, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported her communications officer. "Standard surrender demand. Submit or be destroyed." Sarah had served in the Colonial Defense Force for 23 years, working her way up from enlisted maintenance crew to fleet command. She had fought pirates, dealt with resource disputes between colonies, and managed evacuation operations during natural disasters. But this was different. This was a battle for humanity's survival. "Send reply on all channels," she ordered. "This is Admiral Sarah Rodriguez of the Colonial Defense Force. New Brisbane is under human protection. Any attack on this colony will be met with all available force." The response came immediately, contemptuous laughter from the Krillian commander. "Human commander, you have 6 primitive vessels against our battle group. Stand down, and we will make your deaths quick." Sarah smiled grimly. "Unknown Krillian vessel, you clearly haven't done your homework on human military doctrine. Allow me to provide a demonstration. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for decades to come." The New Brisbane Defense Force didn't engage the Krillians in traditional battle. Instead, they implemented tactics that had been refined during humanity's bloodiest conflicts on Earth. The patrol frigates scattered immediately, using the colony's asteroid belt as cover while transmitting false sensor readings to confuse Krillian targeting systems. Converted cargo haulers, loaded with industrial mining explosives, approached from multiple vectors while broadcasting civilian distress signals. Most shocking of all, the orbital defense platforms that appeared to be standard defensive installations revealed their true nature as massive kinetic weapon systems. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 3 Krillian ships had been destroyed and 5 others severely damaged. The human losses were higher in absolute numbers, but lower in strategic value. Every human vessel lost had been a calculated sacrifice designed to inflict maximum damage on the enemy. But the real victory wasn't tactical, it was psychological. For the first time in 3 centuries of expansion, a Krillian task force had been defeated by a supposedly inferior species using primitive technology and unorthodox tactics. Word of the New Brisbane victory spread through human space faster than the Krillian Empire could suppress it. On every human world, colonial militias began training in the new tactics. Mining equipment was converted to weapons. Civilian ships were modified for combat. Most importantly, every human in the galaxy understood that their species had chosen to fight rather than surrender. The Krillian response was swift and brutal. Fleet Admiral Korath Vex, veteran of 8 successful conquest campaigns, was assigned to end the human rebellion quickly and decisively. His armada of 60 ships represented more firepower than most species possessed in their entire military. "This ends now," Vex declared from his flagship as the armada approached Earth's outer system. "We will demonstrate the cost of defying the Empire." The target was Luna City, humanity's oldest off-world settlement, and a symbol of their expansion into space. The Krillians expected to find a heavily defended position that would provide an impressive demonstration when destroyed. Instead, they found something that didn't fit their understanding of how warfare was supposed to work. Luna City appeared defenseless. No orbital platforms, no patrol ships, no obvious military installations. When the Krillian ships moved into bombardment position, they encountered no resistance. Admiral Vex was suspicious but proceeded with the attack. The first energy beams struck Luna City's residential districts, causing massive explosions that were visible from Earth. But as the bombardment continued, strange things began happening. Kryllian ships started experiencing system failures. Communications became disrupted. Navigation sensors provided conflicting readings. "Admiral, we're detecting massive EM interference from the planetary surface," reported the flagship's tactical officer. "It's affecting our entire fleet." Vex realized too late that Luna City's defenselessness had been a trap. The human settlement was riddled with concealed electromagnetic pulse generators that activated when the bombardment began. The humans had sacrificed their own city to create a weapon that could disable Kryllian electronics. As the alien fleet struggled with cascading system failures, Earth's real defense force revealed itself. Hundreds of small craft emerged from hiding positions throughout the outer system. They weren't designed for traditional combat. They were suicide vessels packed with nuclear warheads and guided by human pilots who had volunteered for one-way missions. The Battle of Luna became a nightmare for the Kryllians. Their superior firepower meant nothing when their targeting systems were compromised and their enemies were willing to die to inflict damage. 12 Kryllian ships were destroyed, including 2 heavy battlecruisers. The remainder of the fleet retreated in disorder. Having learned that humans fought wars differently than any species the Empire had encountered, Commander Elena Vasquez, now promoted to military intelligence, stood in the ruins of Luna City 3 days after the battle. The sacrifice of the settlement had saved Earth, but the cost in human lives was staggering. Around her, rescue teams searched for survivors among the rubble while engineers began planning the city's reconstruction. "The Kryllians are requesting a ceasefire," Captain Chen reported, approaching through the debris field. "They want to negotiate." Elena wasn't surprised. Intelligence reports indicated that news of the Luna battle had reached the Kryllian home system, causing unprecedented concern among the Empire's leadership. For 3 centuries, their conquest strategy had been simple: demonstrate overwhelming force, accept surrender, integrate new vassals. The human response had broken their strategic framework. "What are their terms?" Elena asked. "Status quo ante bellum. They withdraw to their territory, we stay in ours. No vassalage, no conquest, just mutual recognition of boundaries." Elena considered this. 3 months ago, such an offer would have been humanity's greatest diplomatic victory. But 3 months ago, she hadn't seen what her species was capable of when facing extinction. "Send reply," she said finally. "We reject their offer. Ma'am, tell them humanity has a counterproposal. Complete Kryllian withdrawal from all conquered territories, freedom for all 12 vassal species, reparations for damages inflicted during their expansion, and formal recognition of humanity as the dominant military power in this sector." Captain Chen stared at her in disbelief. "Elena, they still outnumber us 10 to 1. Their technology is still superior. We can't possibly enforce those terms." Elena smiled, and Captain Chen realized it was the same expression she had worn during her confrontation with Ambassador Vorthek. "Marcus, the Kryllians made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They studied our technology, our numbers, our conventional military capabilities, but they never understood our greatest weapon, which is, we don't know how to quit. Every battle we fought has taught them the same lesson. Humans become more dangerous the longer a conflict continues. We adapt, we innovate, we sacrifice whatever it takes to achieve victory. The Kryllians are a conquest species, but we're a survival species. There's a difference." The Kryllian Empire's response came within hours: complete rejection of human demands and a declaration of total war. Fleet Admiral Vex was reinforced with an additional 100 ships and given explicit orders to ensure no human world remained inhabited. But something had changed in the months since the conflict began. Intelligence reports from across Kryllian space described unprecedented events: vassal species openly questioning imperial authority, rebel movements forming unconquered worlds, and even some Kryllian worlds beginning to doubt the Empire's invincibility. The humans had done more than survive the Empire's initial assault. They had demonstrated that the Krillians could be defeated, and that knowledge was spreading throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had submitted to imperial rule decades ago were remembering what it meant to be free. The final confrontation came at the Vega system, where the expanded Krillian armada met humanity's combined fleet in the largest space battle in recorded history. Admiral Rodriguez commanded the human forces from her flagship, the rebuilt UCS Defiance, surrounded by ships representing every human world and colony. The battle should have been a massacre. The Krillians still possessed superior numbers and technology, but they were fighting an enemy that had spent months studying their tactics, exploiting their weaknesses, and developing countermeasures for their advantages. Human ships used swarming tactics that overwhelmed Krillian point defenses. Converted civilian vessels served as mobile weapon platforms that confused enemy targeting systems. Most devastating of all, human forces employed psychological warfare that struck at the heart of Krillian military doctrine. "Attention Krillian fleet," Elena broadcast from the Defiance's command bridge. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the United Human Colonies. You came here to demonstrate imperial power. Instead, you're about to learn what humans become when you threaten our extinction. We don't just fight to win. We fight until nothing of our enemies remains." The words echoed across all communication frequencies, heard not just by the Krillian fleet, but by every world within range. The message was clear. Humanity would not be conquered, would not be enslaved, and would not surrender no matter the cost. The Battle of Vega lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Krillian Empire's expansion had been permanently halted. Half their fleet was destroyed, including Fleet Admiral Vex's flagship. The remainder retreated to their core systems, carrying with them the knowledge that they had encountered something they had never faced before, a species that grew stronger under pressure and more dangerous when threatened with annihilation. In the aftermath, the 12 vassal species that had served the Krillian Empire for centuries declared their independence. The empire itself began fragmenting as constituent worlds questioned whether their leaders were still worthy of their loyalty. The age of Krillian expansion was over, ended not by superior technology or greater numbers, but by humanity's refusal to accept defeat. Elena stood on the observation deck of Nexus Station, looking out at the same stars she had seen months earlier when Ambassador Vorthak had delivered his ultimatum. The Helix Nebula still painted space in brilliant colors, but now those colors seemed to represent hope rather than beauty observed from a position of weakness. "Any regrets?" Captain Chen asked, joining her at the viewport. "About refusing their offer?" "No, about the cost we paid. Every day." Elena thought of Luna City, of the thousands who had died in humanity's first interstellar war, of the colonies that had been devastated before human tactics had evened the odds. "But Marcus, if we had accepted vassalage, we wouldn't be human anymore. We'd be something else, something diminished. That would have been a different kind of death." The communication system chimed with an incoming message. Elena activated the display, revealing the face of Ambassador Threx Vorthak. The proud Krillian looked older, his neck frill drooping with what Elena recognized as exhaustion. "Commander Vasquez," he said formally, "the Krillian Empire requests formal negotiations for a treaty of mutual recognition and non-aggression." Elena considered her response carefully. "Ambassador, humanity is prepared to negotiate, but understand that we negotiate as equals now. Your empire's days of conquest are over." "Yes," Vorthak replied quietly. "We understand. Your species has taught us valuable lessons about the nature of strength. Perhaps it is time for the Empire to learn what you call cooperation instead of domination." As the transmission ended, Elena reflected on how completely the situation had changed. Humanity had faced extinction and chosen to fight instead of surrender. In doing so, they had not only saved themselves but liberated 12 other species and fundamentally altered the balance of power in their sector of the galaxy. The Krillians had studied human history and concluded that humanity's violent past made them weak and chaotic. They had been catastrophically wrong. Humanity's history of conflict had actually made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy when cornered, because they had learned that some things were worth any sacrifice to preserve. The stars looked different now, Alina realized. They no longer represented the vast unknown filled with potential threats. They represented possibilities, worlds where humans and aliens might work together as equals, building something better than either species could achieve alone. The war was over, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.